Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video. Today I have a special one for you guys today because I'm pretty much going to answer the big question of 2020 in relation to Gearbox and Borderlands 3 is, should I be playing Borderlands 3 in 2020? Now, to answer this question, we are going to go back from the beginning to where we are right now in game. And mind you, I have done everything. I mean, I played practically everything when it was released. I stopped playing in between the Bloody Harvest and Malawan Takedown event. I practically left for about 3 to 2 weeks. Now, mind you, it was not around my birthday and all that, so I guess it was actually a good time to leave for the most part, other than the fact that I had to obviously catch up from Mayhem 4 to go into Mayhem 10 because I wanted to see what has changed. But bringing in my first point, in September when Borderlands 3 was released, it was strong. A lot of big YouTubers, streamers, it was getting the attention that the whole Borderlands franchise deserved. But did it? Um, my point when I say that is Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2 was absolutely amazing. I put over 900 plus hours into both of those games, played every character. Brick was my main on Borderlands 1, and definitely Lilith was my main on Borderlands 2. But with all that being said, it still had high hopes, and I had high hopes. A lot of people have high hopes, but nowadays games that I feel I am giving them too much of my attention, or like praying that the game is going to be spectacular. Well, I learned my lesson when it comes to doing that, especially with Anthem. Anthem was one of the biggest failures, and still waiting for my refund. But yeah, guys, it was good overall. Don't get me wrong. Which release was fine. Making characters, doing builds for characters before the game was even released, all that was really cool. Which brings me to my second point. After the fact, after playing Flak, going through the story mode on normal, and then doing it again on True Vault Hunter to get to Mayhem 3, that was okay in a way. It definitely, for the main storyline, it definitely wasn't as good as Borderlands 2. I don't think they'll ever have a Borderlands game beat Borderlands 2 unless for some magical reason all time as we know it gets rewind or some shit, and like Handsome Jack comes back somehow, which I don't think that's possible, but maybe there's a vault monster that could do that. So playing through the quest line and the hours and hours of grinding through it, eventually I did complete it on True Vault Hunter and eventually end up doing Mayhem 3. Now with this game, there was no specific loot drop, so practically you could face anything, kill anything, and just a random weapon would drop. I think that was their first huge mistake for this game. There should definitely be specific loot drops, especially for looter shooters like this. I mean, randomized loot was fun kind of when I first heard it, but I was definitely skeptical, and I'm glad I was, because me and probably a bunch of other people were right about it. Because comparing this game with Borderlands 3, or this Borderlands 3 with Borderlands 2, I could tell you like what boss to go fight for a certain weapon, and then from there you could grind out to get that weapon and get the best drop for that weapon, depending on what you were grinding for. It took a little time, but usually solo you could definitely do it within the first 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you really wanted. But with that being said, after going through on Flak and doing Mayhem 3, the Mayhem modifiers were absolute dog shit. Eventually they did work around it to make it definitely more viable for every character. And then also going through the main mission on 3 different characters on normal and True Vault Hunter mode was just mind-numbingly painful compared to any other Borderlands game. even before Borderlands 3 came out, I even made all 4 characters again on Borderlands 2 just to have some fun and kill some time before this game came out, and I enjoyed it. With this game, you definitely don't get the same satisfaction going through the story mode. Now, I will say the story mode was about a 7.75. Now, this whole game, I would give it about a 7.5 to an 8 when the game first released. Now, with Mayhem 2.0, I would definitely say to about a 6.5 to 6. And I think even that's being a little generous. I don't know. My opinion, guys, is what this whole video is about. But going through all those quest lines again and again and again and again and again and again definitely was very painful. Like I said, especially since the main story wasn't all that great to begin with. There was definitely some spots in the main story mode where it's just like, why would you just automatically kill her off, or like she didn't have much screen time or whatever. And it definitely felt like this story mode, I'm pretty sure it was longer than Borderlands 1 and 2, which makes sense. But if you're going to make it that long, at least make it good. And also, with doing all those quest lines, luckily I wasn't one of those guys that actually did side quests, because in Borderlands 3 the side quests are complete dog shit. There's on the release and like a month or two after, there was only like 2 to 3 weapons you get from side quests that actually were pretty good. Actually, one of them was a grenade, which was the pipe bomb that could basically instant kill just about any boss, which definitely needed to be nerfed. But then that just takes away from only having like 2 good weapons. And now that I say that, I don't even think there was any good weapons actually keeping. I think there was 1 or 2 quests that you actually got a legendary weapon from. Whereas Borderlands 2, you could get the Sandhawk, you could get Moxie's Love, the pistol that basically had like 200% critical damage. Can't quite remember its name. Even Moxie, compared to Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3, the SMG was way better in Borderlands 2 in my opinion. And also too, Marcus had a quest where you could get a really strong pistol, especially with Salvador, that could just keep you alive through the entire fight, and you could just use the Unkempt Herald in your other hand. But you don't get to see any of that in this game. I think the only weapon people are probably using now is maybe the butt plug, and that's just because it's an instant kill from behind in the butt, obviously. Which, talking about the side quest, that was actually my 3rd point. So going from my 3rd point to my 4th point, end game bosses spam in Mayhem 3 was so grueling. I can't, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way and probably have the same stats. Fighting Grave Ward over and over again, Captain Trant. There was just so many bosses that you would just fight over and over again, because you don't want to fight Tyrene unless you want the King's and Queen's Call, which immediately got nerfed. They're okay now, but I haven't tested them on Mayhem 10 because I don't really want to go through the whole immunity phase on bosses. And then with spamming Grave Ward and Captain Trant came the Jabberwock glitch. I can't remember which glitch came first. Either the loot tank glitch came first or the Jabberwock glitch. But that basically, I think, saved a lot of people from quitting the game, because it was definitely a new way to farm. And then obviously we had the offline mode with Slaughter Shaft. There was definitely ways around to get your legendaries, but the specific loot drop definitely kind of hurt this game quite a bit, post or pre-launch, post-launch, whenever the game came out. And then after all that grinding, brings us to my 5th point, which is the Bloody Harvest limited time mode. Why are we getting a limited time mode in a game where we should just be able to grind whenever we have a chance to get the weapons? This right here is where I thought, okay, it's a limited time mode, but hopefully they fix it in the next one, which they didn't. The cartel event is still a limited time mode. I think they are actually giving the cartel event like another week or so compared to the Bloody Harvest event. I could be wrong, or maybe the Bloody Harvest event had more time. I can't quite remember, but with the Bloody Harvest event in limited time mode, brought a couple cool legendaries, different anointments to make different builds with on characters, which basically brought a whole new aspect to the game, and I was actually kind of looking forward to it. But with seeing all that, we actually got to see the roadmap, and the roadmap basically was the release with the Bloody Harvest and then the Malawan takedown into Mayhem 4. And when I saw Mayhem 4, I'm like, well, what's the point of coming out with Mayhem 4 with this when you have this new event and all these guns and grenades and everything is going to be obsolete within the next month? It makes no sense. Which brings me to the point that Gearbox with this game is basically like they're fishing with like a dollar on the string, and we're trying to grab it. Is what's happening. Which brings me to point 6. Obviously, I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, which was the Malawan takedown raid and Mayhem 4. So not only is your Bloody Harvest event weapons and builds completely useless, but with the Malawan takedown, it was fun for all of 5 hours, especially when you could go through it over and over again. Most people practically just use like the Cutsmans, and you're practically good going through it all. And then obviously with Mayhem 4 being out, some people just went for Mayhem 4 for bosses, and then went to do the takedown however you did it. And then even with Mayhem 4 coming out, their Mayhem modifiers were still all messed up and had to do almost a complete rework of the modifiers, which I think is exactly what's going to happen with Mayhem 10 as well. With December rolling around after the Malawan takedown, we got the Moxie Heist Dlc with Handsome Jack, Doppelganger, and everything. Don't get me wrong, guys, it was a lot of fun going through. With the DLC, basically gave Zane a huge buff, and basically probably made him one of the best characters in the game to play. I loved everything about it. Anything that has to deal with Handsome Jack, even though we got to see him and basically just as a hologram, was good enough for me. I was happy with it, and at that point Mayhem 4 was already out, so I knew I was already going to be able to start grinding this DLC out, which was perfect. But then came the content relapse where people didn't know what to do. A lot of the guns were not working right in Mayhem 4, and everybody was practically using the same guns over and over again, which basically Gearbox said okay and buffed a bunch of weapons, which one in particular was the Lob, and that thing shredded, could shoot 3 projectiles at a time instead of 1, got a huge damage buff. It basically became one of the best guns in the game, and even though it was fun using it, Gearbox eventually took it away, and then from there we had Mayhem 10 where they basically took 1 or 2 projectiles out of it and just made it faster, which for me, I don't know why they would increase the speed of the projectile, because you actually want it to move slowly so the enemies actually get hit more frequently. I think it definitely needed to be toned down a little bit, but I basically think they brought it back to where it exactly was, other than with the damage. But with all these weapon buffs and all this new grinding people were doing to get the weapons again and try them out and do the videos on them, didn't even matter anymore. With all these weapon buffs and the new DLC 2 Guns, Love, and Tentacles that came out, Mayhem 10 and the Revenge of the Cartel was basically right behind it. And with Mayhem 10 brought 6 new Mayhem modifiers, or Mayhem modes, which means each gun would drop at different levels, different damages, everything, for whatever Mayhem you were on, which was a huge upset for me and probably a lot of other people. But talking about Guns, Love, and Tentacles, it was a fun DLC. There was definitely a lot of cool new weapon variants, like the Anarchy shotgun where you can glitch it out and basically one-shot anything. The DLC itself, it was a fun storyline between Hammerlock and Jacobs. Can't remember his name, but it was a fun DLC overall, and definitely cool boss fight in the end and everything. And basically the Innkeeper wasn't the bad guy as far as we know. Which brings me to point 11, Mayhem 2.0 and Revenge of the Cartel. Now, for me personally, I don't know why they release a limited time mode and Mayhem 10 when we should get Mayhem 10 and then obviously start getting like the limited time modes and everything. And even with Guns, Love, and Tentacles already being out, I think Mayhem 10 should have came out before Guns, Love, and Tentacles to kind of give everybody the chance to like grind for the weapons, go through the new DLC, and then come through the new limited time mode. I think that would have been a lot better than the order that they're going in now. Definitely with DLC 3 and 4, I am completely worried about what their whole process is with these things coming out and the roadmaps, because so far it has been completely awful in my opinion. I still love the game. Definitely not a lot of thought is going into it. And with Mayhem 2.0 coming out and Mayhem 10 coming out, when you set Mayhem 10 to, or when you put on Mayhem 10 and you change the modifiers to whatever you want and everything, weapons aren't dropping the way they should be. Some weapons are dropping in Mayhem 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, not sometimes 10. Usually if it's a new weapon, you practically get it for Mayhem 10. But any weapon that was buffed before Guns, Love, and Tentacles or after Guns, Love, and Tentacle basically were rendered useless. I still see a daunting bitch that goes for about 900 damage, and that's all I see. Every time I see a bitch SMG, it's always 900 to maybe 1,000 damage. I digress, and yes, a lot of guns did get buffed, but with Mayhem 2.0, practically everyone's using the same new weapon, the Kalo-san, the OPQ system, the yellow cake, and well, the lob is okay now. The Kunstmans are fine. There's a few weapons here or there. Plus, with the new sniper rifle, Sandhawk, that drops from Katagawa Jr., there's definitely some really cool new weapons in the game, but that's all everyone's using because that's the only thing they can use, because it's the only guns that are actually working right now. So definitely hope they rework some weapons to basically make them all kind of even again before the Mayhem 2.0 came out. And also with Mayhem 10 coming out, a lot of even special action skills aren't the way they're supposed to be. At first, when Mayhem 3 to Mayhem 4 came out, Iron Bear sucked, the Sentinel wasn't good, the Digiclone wasn't doing damage, and they eventually did fix it to where it was actually competing in Mayhem 4, and we're seeing the same problem again from Mayhem 4 to Mayhem 10. So that's a huge problem right there. So with all these Mayhem 2.0 and Revenge of the Cartel problems, now I'm not going to go into details about the Cartel at all. It's a limited time mode, and it definitely shouldn't be, like I said about with the Bloody Harvest event. I'm going to go into some points to where I think Gearbox could take away from this and hopefully might implement some of these, or I might get a comment saying this is completely stupid and whatever. But with point 12 that I'm trying to make is Iridium. Actually, this actually falls into the Cartel event. When you go through the Cartel event, there is a bunch of Iridium that is all over the ground that you can smash. And with the Cartel event, you actually get quite a lot of it. Usually, if you smash all of them, you can probably land about 300 to 400 Iridium every time you go through the event. And don't get me wrong, I went through the event 10 times, and I absolutely loved it. But that's the thing, once I hit about my 10th time, I was practically done with it for the most part. Now, yes, there's other ways to farm the mini bosses, but it's still the same thing. I shouldn't have to grind out a specific thing for a month just to get a weapon that I want, especially if I play solo, or if somebody's offline doing it and goes to a friend's house to get updates. I should not have to, always trade. I should just be able to grind for the loot without having to worry about a restricted time zone period. But with all this Iridium that you can get from the event, there's nothing to do with it. Now, yes, people coming into the game just now, it could help out as far as like buying cool cosmetics for your character from Earl, but other than that, there's not much to it. So which brings me to my point is, with this iridium, with Troy being able to basically use iridium to basically transform his army and basically make them anointed badass tanky motherfuckers, I think we should be able to do the same with weapons. Either through Earl or some kind of vending machine that Maurice has, where we're able to take an anointed weapon and be able to change the anointment. Now, I'm not saying we should be able to do that with any legendary. For starters, the legendary should have to be anointed. So let's say I wanted a radiation KO zone with 100% critical damage when Sentinel is active, or 100% cryo damage while Sentinel is active. And if I get a radiation or a radiation KO zone with a not a god roll as far as damage, but not anointed. Let's just say it has airborne. I should be able to take it to a machine, spend 300 to 400 iridium, and change it. I mean, my 20,000 iridium is just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, collecting dust. So I think that would be a cool way to kind of implement different ways of farming now, and basically even make it so farming for the weapon, people that actually do eventually get the weapon or get a weapon that is anointed aren't completely disappointed, because at all that time farming they probably racked up about 1,000 to 2,000 iridium, and they can take that and try to change the effect on the weapon. I think that would be an absolutely amazing idea. Now with money, they obviously raised the bank and backspace for characters, so you're able to, and sniper and rocket launcher ammo, so you're basically able to carry a lot more with all these new legendaries out. Phenomenal idea. I definitely won't fight against that, because it was a really good idea and I think it definitely needed to be done. Which brings me to my last point: make all seasonal events worth grinding. Make seasonal events so they're not limited time modes. Now, with them being limited time modes, I don't like to. When I grind maybe the same boss for about 2 to 3 hours, and just so I don't basically quit the game, I go to another boss. And yes, I get that's how it should be, but I shouldn't have to like grind out a event 20, 30 plus times in a day every single day to basically get what I want. I paid for the game. I know all the content's free. I know all the DLCs are free, but don't get me wrong, if they tomorrow add a item in the shop that's worth 10 bucks, basically makes it so you can unlock every event from the start of the game till the end, so you can play them 24/7, I would buy it. Now, I wouldn't buy it like 60 bucks worth, but a good $5-10, especially content that they're already gonna make free, is perfectly fine with me. Now, if somebody doesn't feel like spending the money, well, then they get the limited time event. So with all that being said, is Borderlands 3 worth playing in 2020? I would say yes, but I'm only saying that because right now there is enough content. If you started playing right now, Mayhem 10 is out, so hopefully that's the last of Mayhem increases that we see for a while. Hopefully a bunch of the loot drops and systems are being fixed. It's only been about a week since Mayhem 2.0 came out, maybe 2 weeks. So I would definitely say yes, but I'd still be skeptical to say no. The only reason why I would say no is because with DLC 3 and 4, are we going to see another Mayhem level cap increase? Like, how many Mayhems are we going to go to? Is what I'm going to leave at, right, as far as that. Hopefully we don't see any more Mayhem increases for a while. I think they definitely could have made the game where it was at as far as Mayhem 4. It was definitely cool to see the modifiers, but personally I'd rather just go back to badass rank and have really tanky enemies and just make them do a lot more damage. But that's my opinion. But overall, yes, I would start playing the game if you have a chance. Now, don't get me wrong, somebody came up to me and asked, hey, I was looking at Borderlands. I would ask them which one. Because if it was Borderlands 2, I always recommend Borderlands 2 to any of my friends if they want to start getting into it. Because obviously Borderlands 2 was the best. But yeah, guys, that's where I'm going to leave the video at. Please comment down below what you guys think of it all. I kind of really hope this opened up your guys' eyes a little bit. It definitely opened up mine when I was actually researching like when all the release dates were for everything and kind of seeing what Gearbox was doing within that month or within the week span. And now, I don't get me wrong, I kind of added some hot patches that they did, especially with like all the weapon fixes. Like I said, it's tough to say, guys. This is probably like their biggest drop because they have Mayhem 2.0 and the Cartel event. Not comparing it to like Moxie or Guns, Love, and Tentacles. So at this point we'll see. I hope this kind of cleared up some things for you guys. I hope this was informative in any way possible. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are about the whole thing, and I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.